Welcome back. We're looking back at some of the top stories that made headlines here in Toronto in 2019. This year, Toronto fire crews were kept very busy battling some major blazes. And here to tell us more is Toronto Fire Chief Matthew Pegg. Chief, always a pleasure.
Hi, George.
Thanks for coming in.
My pleasure.
So, you know, it seems, talking off camera, there's always a singular event that defines the year when it comes to fires. I think back to Sunrise Propane, Wellesley, the Racket Club, Parliament Street. This year, really was two, right? York Memorial and Gosford Boulevard. Let's start with the York Memorial fire, because for many of us, we forgot it was this year. Not you.
Not me.
Yeah.
It's been a busy year for sure. York Memorial was an extremely demanding incident and event for our crews and for our emergency response partners. And you know, we're actually accustomed. We do pretty well at dealing with big fires. The thing that I remember and I will never forget about attacking and fighting the York Memorial fire predominantly was the smoke plume.
And we're looking at it right here from the stock footage.
Yeah,
just remarkable.
It was incredible, and just the combination of obviously the volume of smoke being produced by the fire, but the atmospheric conditions that existed that day. We had a daunting task to manage the evacuation perimeters and try and stay ahead of that. And you know, we were using obviously the assistance of Toronto Police, and Toronto medics are with us all the time, and that periphery, that evacuation zone, kept expanding. It's also the only fire in my time in Toronto where we have I made the request for, and we actually received assistance from the York Regional Police helicopter. So that was a conversation between the Toronto Police and myself, and then York Police were able to take one of our command staff up in the helicopter just to get that overhead view of that smoke plume and confirm what our command processes were with respect to evacuation zones. So
the smoke was causing problems on a number of fronts, right? Where it was going, what it was made of.
Right.
But how much was it hampering your ability to fight the fire?
Well, it was
visually and everything else.
Yeah, it was really tough because the wind direction changed fundamentally in the course of the fire. So initially it was all moving to the south, and then pretty much without warning it swung at one point as much as 180 degrees. So that's really tough for us when you figure that our trucks are set up, all of our command posts and everything is set up in clean air where it needs to be, and then you know, out of nowhere we go from clean air to zero visibility and smoke.
It's like an oil tanker on the ocean. Hard to turn around quickly, right?
Yeah, we can't just snap our fingers and make that move. So, you know, as always, the women and men that were working that scene and our incident command staff, they do a magnificent job all the time, and they managed a very fluid situation with poise and professionalism, and I'm proud of them. Gosford
Boulevard. What can you tell us about this one?
Well, Gosford, you know, obviously Gosford is one of those incidents that I never want to see again. Anytime that a member of our community and a resident is critically injured or loses their life, I feel every one of those, and our organization does. So, you know, my sympathies and condolences go to the family. Gosford was a very difficult and a very unique circumstance, and it went very quickly up to 5 alarms. And again, some interesting and some challenging wind conditions that night for our crews, but it was really representative of what oftentimes in our city we deal with a lot of high-rise, of course, and people that watch us on scene and, you know, through the media and watch us fight fires oftentimes don't see a lot of activity outside. And we often receive questions from media and from citizens and people watching about, well, why aren't we doing anything? When in reality, we had firefighters inside that building on every floor, literally moving door to door in that building for the purposes of search and rescue, fire control, and making sure that we're constantly monitoring the people and bringing people out that are in hazard.
Well, Chief, we thank you and your crew for the amazing work all year. We hope we don't have to have this conversation next year.
That'd be
and
nice.
We can simply bring you in at year end to talk about tips to avoid fires.
And your
seasonal.
socks.
And my socks.
Your socks are awesome.
Yeah, they're pretty hot too.
They are.
Chief, thanks very much. Appreciate your time, as always.